Hello, my friend. It is your brother Hampton here. It is a beautiful day by the river, and I'm here sipping coffee, and I want to talk a little bit about trust. Trust seems to be an important topic nowadays, especially nowadays that people tend to value authenticity and transparency more than ever, right? People watch YouTube and they watch unfiltered videos more than some multi-million-dollar productions. So I think there definitely is a new discussion in our society about the importance of being able to trust people. It's an important part of how we form bonds and how we form friendships. So I feel like we can talk about this a little bit. My friend Lexi bought me this cup when she was traveling in Colorado, shipped it to me, and I've kept it around ever since. I really like it. So thank you, Lexi, for making this podcast possible. And now we're gonna do the beginning sip, otherwise no one seems to believe that I have coffee in my cup. You hear that? I guess that could be any kind of liquid, but it's coffee. Just trust me on this. It's coffee. I'll take a photo. I'll take a video, actually. I'll show you that it's coffee that I'm drinking. So there are a few different things that can affect how much we trust someone, and I feel like many of them are self-evident. For example, we have time. If we spend even a few hours with someone, or a weekend with someone, or our college years with someone, sometimes this can create a bond that lasts for the rest of our lives. Not a whole lot of time compared to the rest of our lives. 3 hours is, 5 hours is. But sometimes, depending on what happens during that time, you can create a deep bond. And the second thing is depth, right? If you have a deep conversation with someone. I have a podcast, or this is that podcast, but I've interviewed people before, and some of those interviews, we have a deep discussion, often with other content creators or people in fitness, people in strength training. And we had one conversation, maybe two, with some of them. And I still consider some of them some close companions or friends or acquaintances that I can message anytime. They know they can message me anytime, and we can help each other. And we really only bonded over like one conversation, but it was a deep conversation where we talked about their interests, their passions, and what they want to build for the future. So that depth of conversation during that time can make a big difference. So we have time and depth. And the last thing I feel like is the most important thing is what I'll cover during this video, and that is just to be a trustworthy person. Right? Most of you are watching this, especially since this is one of the earlier episodes, because you either know the fitness content or you like me. I appreciate that. But some people will watch videos like this to kind of game the system. You hear it's like, oh, well, if you know someone in 3 different places, they are more likely to trust you. If you know them as a coworker, if you know them as a friend, and you know them as someone you have drinks with, then they're likely to trust you. That's like the psychological thing of 3s, right? And it's great that we can understand some of these reasons behind why our mind might want to trust someone, why we might want to be closer to someone. And it's good to understand the reasons behind that, but I think the most important foundation that can drive all of that, even if you don't understand it, is just to be a trustworthy person that wants the best for the person that you're around. And we can do that by doing things in good faith, by reaching out first and trusting people. And also, I think this is a very important thing, and this is why it's on my mind. I meet a lot of people through business, and I think it's important when I'm deciding whether or not to trust someone that they show they're willing to take a short-term loss if it means that I don't take a loss, so we can both have long-term benefit. So I meet a lot of salespeople doing what I do. Like every day in my email DMs, I'm getting pitched something, which is not necessarily bad. I hear about some really cool companies and some really cool products and services sometimes, and some of it I really want. And when I see something that I have interest, I often reach out or I answer their email and we start a discussion. And I don't want to seem naive. I do want to do business with people that I enjoy and want to be friends with, but I know, of course, in the first conversation, there is an element during a sales call that they are going to try to sell me something, and that's fine. But after several times we meet, in order for us to do long-term business, I need to know that the person that I have a contact with will give me their honest opinion about something, even if it means it isn't in their immediate best interest. So if you try to sell me something, or you try to offer something, or you want to do something that I know will benefit you, you might operate on a commission. These are just business examples. We can go into some other examples in a bit. But you might get a commission by selling me something. And if I get the sense that you're selling me that, even though you know that I don't need it, then I can't trust you as much anymore, because then we can't ever really go beyond business associate to friend, business associate to just acquaintance to friend. Because in my opinion, they've drawn that line to where, no, our relationship is only transactional, which is fine if that's what they want it to be. But if they're later on confused as to why I don't have more trust in them, that's why. Because they know I may not want something, they know I may not benefit from their thing, and yet they're offering it to me at a bank, at a meeting, or even at the grocery store. If someone tries to sell me something and I see them kind of hesitate a little bit. This happens at the insurance place a little bit, where they know I might not need this insurance, but they're like, oh yeah, and I hear them go through the spiel in their own mind. I'm like, I wish they wouldn't do that, because if they just told me, hey, this is something we offer and it's a good product, but you might not need it. I do the same thing in my business. So we offer fitness knowledge and we offer fitness equipment, but I know not everyone needs that fitness knowledge or training or fitness equipment. I really only want to do business with people that are thrilled to do business with me. Not to like a giddy, delusional extent, but if I offer something, say a book or an app, and someone says, I really want this, how much is it? I'm like this, and then they're like, that's a great price for it, here you go. I don't really want someone who's like, I don't know if I want that, and then I have to convince them into it, and they get it, they try it for 7 days, they're unhappy about it. It's perfectly fine if they don't want my thing. I fully understand if they don't want my thing. Early on, before I did hybrid calisthenics, I would design websites for people. And I would do them for $800 each. And that was pretty cheap for the area that I lived in. And one of the things I would do is I would put, at the time I would just post on Facebook. I didn't know that much about marketing at the time. I was like, yep, doing websites, message me if you want one, or comment if you want one. And I would have friends reach out and they would say, hey Hampton, I might need a website. Can we talk about this? And I would say, sure. And then I would think, at the time, this is me in my teens, I would think, $800 is a lot of money. It's still a lot of money to me. I could charge my friend this, or I could say, I'll just show you how I build it. I'll show you some cheaper ways you can build it, and then you can decide whether or not you want to do it for yourself. And every single one said, oh yeah, I can save money, sure. So I would sit down, I have my laptop, and we sit down together, we meet over a sundae and a coffee or something, which is right now, actually. And I would show them exactly what I would do to build a website. I was like, do this. And I have them try it, and they would say, click and drag. No, you gotta, like, there's some design choices they have to make. And all the time, like halfway through, or 20 minutes in, 30 minutes in, they would sit up and go, you know what, Hampton, I'll just pay you. I'm like, but I can just, you don't have to pay me. I'll just show you exactly what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I see the work you're doing. I'd rather just pay you for this, right? And that I never intended that as a sales pitch. I never meant that to be, hey, I'm gonna show you how I do it, so you'll buy it. They were already gonna buy it from me. I thought they might be able to save some money, but as a result, they trusted me more, and they were like, well, this is exactly what goes behind it. They saw the value that goes into it, and they thought, well, I'd rather just pay Hampton to do it. But an important note I should add to that, before I move on, is that always involved me reaching out first. That always involved me taking kind of a leap of faith, or just a step of faith, because they could just take my advice, learn from me, not pay me, and just move on. And I was always okay with that, because over time, showing trust, first of all, if they needed to save the money, if they were just starting a business, they often didn't have that much money yet. So I wanted to help them save money. So taking that extra little bit to reach out and offer to help and genuinely want to help, not use it as manipulation, not giving and saying, oh, I don't need anything in return, and secretly expect something in return. No, I just want to help them. And that's important to start this conversation, because when you reach out your hand first, sometimes you will give people an opportunity to reach back. Now, those are some relatively specific examples, relatively business-focused examples that I think illustrate the concept really well, because you have the idea of money and value, but may not directly apply to everyone. So just to wrap it up a little bit, I would say you can start by offering to help. You can start by reaching out. You can offer to give someone a ride. You can offer to help them move. And sometimes you offer out of the blue, and sometimes they're asking others, and then you can offer. But either way, when you take that first step, even though your friendship may not quite be there yet, even if they haven't demonstrated enough in return for you to offer that, that can be the first step to something nice. Now, some people might say, well, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be taken advantage of, which is reasonable. Everyone's in a different place, and you may not want to go to a deep level of friendship with this person. You may not want to go any further with this person because you don't really know them and you may not trust them. And that's perfectly fine. These are situational things. But if you do like them and you do reach out first because you want to, I'm not saying you have to bet the farm on someone. These are small things. Giving someone a ride if you feel safe doing so. Helping them move if you're able to do so. I'm not saying give them your car or give them your house. In fact, giving way too much early on is sometimes a red flag for a manipulator. So just something to keep in mind. As I say that, a red car drives by. I'm saying giving what you want to and giving what you're able, something that's relatively light, free, and easy, but still means something to the other person. Buying them coffee, for example. I think doing that at scale, because you want to, over and over and over again with many different people, can sometimes be the start of something beautiful. Because I've said this before, the world is full of people with their hands out, but most people have their hands out like this, with their palms up, because they're asking for things, because they're saying, hey, give me something. And they sometimes need things. But the world is full of people like that. And if you're someone who has their hands out like this to give someone something, or like this to help someone up, then you can really stand out. And then that can attract people to you. And sometimes when you're both willing to give to the other person more than you're getting in return, if you're both willing to give and not expect something in return, I think that can be part of the foundation of some of the most beautiful and fruitful and enjoyable relationships that we have, whether romantic or friendships or business relationships. And it can make life just more enjoyable when you're both willing to serve each other without necessarily getting your equivalent value in return, just because you want to. Thank you all for joining me for this podcast. I am still experimenting to see what people like best, so let me know. Have a beautiful day. Also, check this out. The coffee shop I went to this morning, I like them a lot. I know the people there, and they drew this. It says Happy, and there's some sunglasses and some sun. So this person isn't wearing sunglasses for no reason. That'd be odd. There's some sun. I thought that was funny.